Microsoft Word. We need to get that.
I didn't catch that number. What number is it?
422.
You can get all kinds of extensions through Chrome. And
Did you get that? 422?
Can you show me?
Yes, thank you.
It pops up in autoplays. So everybody ready?
Does it have Windows?
Okay.
No, I don't.
422.
Come we have loved the Lord and let our joys be known. Join in the song which sweet accord, join in the song which sweet accord, and thus surround the throne, and thus surround the throne. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Let those refuse to sing who never knew our God. The children of the heavenly King, the children of the heavenly King, may speak their joys abroad, may speak their joys abroad. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. The hill of Zion gives 1,000 shaded streets. Before we reach the heavenly hills, before we reach the heavenly hills, oh walk the golden streets, oh walk the golden streets. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God. Then let our songs abound and every tear be dry. We're marching through Emmanuel's ground. We're marching through Emmanuel's ground. To fairer worlds on high, to fairer worlds on high. We're marching to Zion, beautiful, beautiful Zion. We're marching upward to Zion, the beautiful city of God.
Amen.
Do you want to pray, Brother Phil?
Wonderful Father in heaven, Lord, we praise your holy name, and we give you great thanks for the opportunity to be here, sweet fellowship. And we thank you, Lord, that you're guiding us and you're teaching us. We thank you, Lord, for striving with us. And you have taught us much. There's much that we need to unlearn, and still much to learn. And this is very progressive. And so we're grateful, Lord, for the light that you shine upon us. So as we continue on this journey, Lord, journey on the old path, the narrow path, we pray for your continuous guidance, your teaching, that your Holy Spirit will continue to abide in us, and that we shall not grieve the Holy Spirit, but we shall trust and obey, and listen to every word that proceeds from the mouth of God. So, as we are on this journey, Lord, and as the afternoon is, Lord, we ask that you'll keep us awake, keep our minds focused and sharp, for we are living truly in the last days, and we can't afford to fall asleep. literally or spiritually. So thank you, Lord. All this we pray in the name of Yeshua. Amen.
Amen. I like that we're marching on Emmanuel's ground.
Yep.
It's interesting because marching on Emmanuel's ground and we're marching to Zion because that's his ground. And he's leading the way, right? So we walk in his footsteps on the way as he leads.
Yes.
You guys can hear us okay, right?
Yes, we can hear you well.
I am going to
Yes.
see if I can get that slideshow to open up the way that I did before. Everything works? You guys can see it right because I can see it right, correct?
23.
I figured it out, Christine.
Maybe you could show us later. So when we come to that point, we know how to do it.
It was not what I would have thought, but anyways, we figured it out. Who's missing? Where'd they
How
go?
funny I don't even have Leonard. Oh no, sorry, Adriana.
And Christina. Oh, there's Christina. Okay. Okay.
What happened?
No, it's just I didn't see you there either. I didn't know if you guys were there. Okay, so going back on now, we're going to move on to Ipsus because you can see from the previous study, the timelines, the lines that are laid out are leading us to the Battle of Ipsus, 301, right? 301 BC. So as we went in the line of Pyrrhus, we're working our way towards 301 BC. We see that there's well, she's going to review it anyways, but we can see that there's a 10-year period of time that can be marked. There's a proxy war that can be marked, and then there's an alliance that happens. And we're lining that up with World War II. And between those two witnesses, it's then giving us our line, and we can.
I only see the beginning of your page where it says Brazil SOPT.
I haven't moved forward yet.
Okay.
I was just given a brief
Okay.
summary. So we're going to move forward now. If I can get my mouse in there. Okay. Okay. So what we've been doing, what she's been showing us, is reviewing these two histories of the King of the North and the King of the South. Looking at Pyrrhus is one of those history, and we're comparing Pyrrhus in World War II, comparing it to our own history, and where Pyrrhus actually begins to be involved in world affairs. And we're marking the 10-year history, which is what I was just kind of reviewing. We're marking the 10-year history. I'm testing myself maybe more than anything else to see that I'm getting it. But we're marking a 10-year history where Demetrius is freeing Athens from a dictator, which sparked war between Demetrius and Antigonus against our three allies. So this is the period of time of Pyrrhus. Go ahead.
You said Demetrius and Antigonus.
Yeah, I'm going to actually elaborate on that right now.
It sounds like you said they were against each other. They're in the same team.
Yeah, they're on the same war between, and the three allies.
Yeah.
So it's Demetrius, yes,
And
yeah,
Antigonus.
yeah. Demetrius and Antigonus against the allies. Yeah, against the allies. So it's the two of them against the allies. So there's a 10-year proxy, a 10-year period of time. There's a proxy war, and then there's an alliance. And this is in each of those lines in the history of Pyrrhus and the history of World War II. And it's showing us, comparing to our own, that we would have a 10-year period of time, marking also a proxy war, and then there's an alliance. So Demetrius and Pyrrhus are in alliance for the first time. It's demonstrated in the Battle of 301, which is Ipsus. And it's the only battle that they go into as allies. And we connected Pyrrhus to Putin, but we also connected Putin to Stalin, which means that Pyrrhus is Stalin, Putin is Stalin, and so they're all connected. I said that wrong, but they're all connected. And this is the beginning of Pyrrhus, his work as the King of the South. So in World War II, okay, we overlaid the line of World War II to see that there's a 10-year proxy war, then there's an alliance, and then there's Hitler and Stalin, an alliance between Hitler and Stalin, and that this proxy war was World War II in training, because what World War II really was a worldwide struggle between fascism and communism. Hitler only went to war with the West because he knew that unless they let him, he could not conquer the East. So the West was not going to let him, and he wanted to conquer because his end goal was always to take down the USSR. So there's two superpowers, the King of the North and the King of the South, and one of them wants to be the superpower. The proxy war in the time of World War II was the Spanish Civil War, and on one side you had fascism, which was supported by Hitler and Mussolini, and the rebels. Did I say that right? The rebels, they're supporting General Franco, and the papacy also sided with fascism. And on the side of the Republican government of Spain, you had Stalin. So we went through that before, that Spain had given over 2/3 of their gold to Stalin.
You said the Republican government of Spain?
Yeah.
I thought it was the communist,
In Spain,
the government, because Stalin was backing them up.
Stalin is communist, but it said Republican government. Maybe somebody can look that up because that's what she said as well. He's supporting their government against fascism. It's not that they're communist.
Okay.
He's supporting their government because Franco is fascist and wants to turn them fascist.
Okay.
Okay. So, and Hitler and Mussolini being fascist, they're supporting General Franco, which we also know that the papacy as well supported the side of fascism. Okay. General Franco won that war, and it was a victory for fascism and for Hitler. And the next interaction we see between the King of the North and the King of the South is an alliance that took the world by surprise. The other countries recognized that they were natural enemies. So they were enemies in that war as well, because Stalin was on the side of the government, the Spanish government, and Hitler was on the side of fascism, so they were enemies. But right after that war, they go into an alliance. There were two parts to the alliance. The first part was the Non-Aggression Pact, which was open and everybody was aware of it, and this was to enable Hitler to go to war with Western Europe. And the second part of that pact was the spheres of influence, which was kept secret. Where they divided up, particularly Eastern Europe, between them, that was their spheres of influence, that they would divide up this Eastern Europe between the two of them, each of them that have their spheres of influence there. This secret was first admitted to in 1989, where they admitted to collusion with the Nazi government. It's the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. The purpose of this alliance was to enable Hitler to invade Poland. You have three allies in this history: Poland, France, and Britain. Hitler wanted to take Poland, and to take Poland meant war with all three. To fight all three, he had to have peace with the USSR. So remember that they were enemies. We just saw that in the Spanish Civil War. They were on opposite sides. But Hitler, in order to take Poland, he needs to be at peace with the USSR. And so Hitler can take on these three allies. Making application, we recognize, one, that there's a 10-year period of time leading to the time of the end. Two, there's a proxy war. 1979 marks more than the beginning of this proxy war. It also marks when the Pope goes to the White House. There are many other points of interest we can find in that period of time. We know the moral majority is raised up. There are many other things in that period of time. So, one, there's a period of 10 years. Two, there's a proxy war. And the next thing we see between the King of the North and the King of the South is an alliance.
Did you press record?
Again, that took everybody by surprise. It's recognized there was collusion between Trump and Putin that enabled World War III. So just as World War II, that alliance is what enabled, the alliance enabled World War III, same thing with Trump and Putin, that the collusion is what then enabled World War III. Yeah, I did. So this was just here, and it's in the notes if you want to read it. We're not going to go through it, but it's the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. I just put it in there for anybody that wants it. It is in the notes so that you can look it up. There's a couple extra things if you look at the file in the notes too that I put in that I don't have in the slides. or maybe we will read it because there was a couple things I think I did want to do in here. It's officially known as the Treaty of Non-Aggression between Germany and the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was a neutrality pact between Nazi Germany and Soviet Union signed in Moscow, August 23rd, 1939, by foreign ministers Joachim van Ribbentrop and I can't say that other name, Molotov, respectively. The clauses of the Nazi-Soviet pact provided a written guarantee of peace by each party towards the other, and declared commitment that neither government would ally itself to or aid an enemy of the other party. In addition to stipulations of non-aggression, the treaty included a secret protocol that defined the borders of Soviet and German spheres of influence. This is all on Wikipedia, by the way, the link is there. The spheres of influence in the event of possible rearrangement of the territories belonging to Poland, Lithuania, Latvia, how do you say that? Latvia, Estonia, and Finland. The secret protocol also recognized the interest of Lithuania in the Vilna region. In addition, Germany declared complete disinterest in Bessarabia.
Yeah.
The secret protocol was just a rumor until it was made public at the Nuremberg trials. And I'm pretty sure I cut out a portion of this. The pact was terminated on June 22nd, 1941, when the Weimar, is that how you say that? Weimar launched Operation Barbarossa and invaded the Soviet Union. We know that to be Panium, correct? Barbarossa is Panium. Thus, as well,
It's
executing...
Raffia.
Huh?
Barbarossa says Raffia.
Barbarossa is Raffia?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was midnight. Right.
No, because Barbarossa, I have it here under Barbarossa.
Okay, I'll look it up later.
Oh, because Germany invades Russia, but Russia beats them. So the North loses. Germany falls.
In Operation Barbarossa.
Yeah, they go to invade. That's what she had it. This
So
is
that's
what,
Raffia, you're saying?
yeah, that's what, no, this is what I got from her from the Arkansas meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where she had
I
it.
thought Operation Barbarossa was Panium. And yeah, I think you got that right. This is where, okay, let me back up anyways, where Weimar.
Oh, no, it's right. Germany does win at Raffia because that's the Alpha history,
Yeah,
the history
King
of
of
the
South. Oh, no, go ahead, say it again.
Barbarossa, King of the North, wins at Raffia in the Alpha history, the history of failure. It's the King of the South who's supposed to win there,
Okay,
but in the history of failure, it's
okay.
backwards.
So it is Raffia, you're saying?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Thus, as well as executing the ideological goal of the, who can say that one? Lebensraum. After the war, von Ribbentrop was convicted of war crimes and executed. Molotov died age 96 in 1986, 5 years before the USSR's dissolution. Soon after World War II, the German copy of the secret protocol was found in Nazi archives and published in the West, but the Soviet government denied its existence until 1989, when it was finally acknowledged and denounced. Vladimir Putin, while condemning the pact as immoral, has also defended the pact as a necessary evil, a U-turn following his earlier condemnation. Huh?
Interesting U-turn. What is that? Adriana, remember U-turn? What is that in one of the studies? It was also like a turning point, but it's also
We're two
vertex or something.
Yeah, the turning point.
Yeah. Interesting. A U-turn following their early condemnation. The turning point. I don't know if that's what it.
Well, that's what waymarks their turning points in history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the King of the North and the King of the South will go to war, and first they begin as allies, and the first battle they fight, they're on the same side. An alliance is needed first. Like Hitler needed Poland, Trump needed an alliance with Putin. And what did Trump need Putin for? what happened in 2016. So just to review the timeline here, we have the line of Pyrrhus, we have the 10-year period, Cassander places a dictator in Athens. 10 years later, Demetrius liberates Athens, which sparks war. Did I say that right? Pyrrhus and Demetrius then go into an alliance, and we're headed our way towards Ipsus. The Spanish Civil War, you can mark a 10-year period there, a proxy war. Then afterwards, you see an alliance of the enemies, and then headed to war. Same thing in our history, a 10-year period of time, the Afghanistan War, many other things in that history, as well as each of the histories. Then it sparks, then you wind up with an alliance in 2014. I don't think we've come to that point yet, but in 2014 we have the alliance. We're talking about it, but it's not on the line yet. But in 2014 is when they make their alliance, and we're headed. What it says, what did Trump need Putin for? What happened in 2016? So it's back here that he makes this alliance because he needs something in order to conquer at Ipsus. Just as Hitler made an alliance with Stalin that Hitler needed in order to enter into that war. So in the history of Pyrrhus, we can see 4 sequential battles.
Elaine,
Yeah, let's go ahead.
a quick question. To your knowledge, were there any secret parts of the alliance that, like, if you go back the one, well, actually, I've got it on my phone. The secret protocol involving the satellite states and the German states was the part that was secret of the Ribbentrop-Molotov Pact, right, of 1939. So
yes.
With Pyrrhus and Demetrius in alliance, was there any part that was secret? Or likewise, well, in a sense, the whole thing, collusion was secret between Trump and Putin in 2014.
Yeah, if you're asking specifically about Pyrrhus and Demetrius, I don't know.
They're actually, it wasn't Pyrrhus and Demetrius, but after Demetrius falls, there was a moment in time where Lysimachus and I think Pyrrhus, Lysimachus and Demetrius, I think, they made a pact between each other, and they divided the country of Macedonia between themselves, and then they went to town taking it over. I think it was Lysimachus and Pyrrhus.
I know I'm not there yet. I'm anxious to get to those studies because I don't fully understand the 2 lines of Pyrrhus. I mean, I've seen them all laid out, but I haven't handled it myself.
It is. In 287, in the line of Pyrrhus, this goes at Panium. In 287, Pyrrhus joins the Allies, and Demetrius is defeated. And the east and west of Macedonia is split with Lysimachus. Yeah. So it's Panium. So there was a division of Macedonia.
But that shows up on the next line of Pyrrhus, not this line. Right? Because you're overlaying line after line after line.
Yours just doesn't go far enough.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm. I see. Good.
Yeah, it's 287.
So it comes up in the future. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I think what she's asking, is there anything here? Is that what you were asking?
It was, Elaine, like 303 in 2014. Was there any portion secret as a corollary with the Hitler-Stalin?
Making alliance in secret? Well, it would be the collusion, and what we read in that previous study that they actually referred to it as collusion.
As collusion, exactly. That would be for the 2014. I would just.
So they referred to it as collusion, and so if it was secret, the people did not know about that part of the pact, that they were going to divide up the land, or the territories. But you also have that Trump here as well has a reason that he wants this alliance. And for people that are paying attention, to see that the president of the United States would be so friendly with Russia that should have sent alarm bells off to a lot of people. It's amazing that it didn't.
Well, it's interesting because in 2014, the collusion was happening, but it was all secret. But
Yeah.
even when in the pre-election lead up and everything, and certainly once president in 2016, Trump pulled no bones about, oh, I get along with Putin, and et cetera, as you say, which should have been a red flag.
Well, that's what it was, is that they, like Elaine said, everyone knew that America and Russia, those two things don't go together. So when you had Trump and Putin being friends, that was the visible part of the pact, where everyone was scared and realized that these are ideological enemies, they shouldn't be friends. But then there's a secret part, which is the collusion part, which had to yet be, which people suspected, but they don't know for sure because no one wants to admit to it. But I think it's
right. Adriana, thank you, because that actually just cleared it up. Because I was thinking, where's the open part in the secret part in 2014? But that's exactly it. You're right. A friendship, seeing eye to eye on certain things and stuff, etc. And Trump as well, sort of apparently distancing himself a wee bit, statements like, I'll agree with him if it's going to make America great again, sort of reasoning. But that's the two parts there, the secret and the open.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So when she was bringing up what we mentioned in the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact that leads to Operation Barbarossa, that's going forward with Pyrrhus's history. So in the history of Pyrrhus, we see 4 sequential battles. And the last 3 we'll study later. Right now we're studying the first one. And if I remember right, these are also the 6 Syrian Wars, right? Going along with the 6 Syrian Wars. So Ipsus is the first of these 4 battles that we see in Pyrrhus. They show the king of the north against the king of the south. And in the first of the 4, they are allies. The first battle is Ipsus. There are 6 parties or players in the Battle of Ipsus. You have Antigonus and Demetrius. Antigonus takes one part of the army. Demetrius is Antigonus's son. And Pyrrhus is fighting for Demetrius. He is Demetrius's general, and he's not fighting for Antigonus. That we'll see as we progress through what that actually means. So even though Antigonus and Demetrius are on the same side, Pyrrhus is fighting with Demetrius and not Antigonus. So these 2 men are fighting 3 allies, the allied forces. Those allies are Seleucus, Cassander, and Lysimachus. Ptolemy was going to go to this battle, but had heard a rumor that the battle has won a false report that they lost to the allies and did not turn up at the fight. So we have just a little graph here showing it. Antigonus, Demetrius, Pyrrhus supporting Demetrius.
I think it was Seleucus who brought the elephants, though, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
We'll get there, yeah. And then she wants us to consider this one concept that when we take a battle or a story, it can be seen on different levels or layers or from different perspectives. By seeing things from different perspectives, you learn different aspects or different pieces of information. The best way I describe this is when I was talking to my customer that was staying with me, it's like God has opened up a movie. I don't know if anybody else can see it this way. This is how I see it, is he's opened up this movie. And in movies, a lot of times couldn't they lay frame over frame over frame over frame? So we're seeing this movie of all this history in a way that's showing us what is happening. Whereas makes me think of actually a movie, which I cannot remember the name, but I was going to use this when I make an attempt to talk to my kids tomorrow. I cannot think of the name of the movie. When they're in,
Describe it.
maybe some of you guys still had it back in it was back in the 80s or 90s. The one where they're on the ship and a storm is coming and they go down under. What's it called?
Perfect Storm?
No, not Perfect Storm. Where they go down and they do that deep sea dive and they go down so far, something gets lost. I can't remember what it was. And there's a battle between two of the parties because some Navy SEALs were on the ship for a mission, but they were lied to about what the people were lied to about what the mission was for. Anyways, they wind up taking a smaller robot ship that's manned by one man, and he goes down deep in because they lost the thing that was supposed to blow the nuclear bomb, the warhead. They lost the warhead. Doesn't sound familiar to you guys? I can't think of the name of it. And so when they made that movie, there was a section of it that was omitted from the movie. And at some point in time, I remember watching, this is years ago, watching the extended version. And it was Ed Harris. I do remember that, if anybody knows who Ed Harris is. But so they showed in the extended version this whole thing that happened while he was down deep, deep, deep. Deeper than any diver had ever gone. Sound familiar? I see a light bulb going on. Okay.
Yeah. Was it like an alien movie?
No, it wasn't. Yes. So yes, it was. It wasn't really an alien movie, but but he goes down and they open up this between the water. He's in the water. And they open up this space in the water, and he literally sees a movie of what is happening on planet Earth from a view that he could grasp what was happening, because all these things are happening in all these various places, in all these different points in time, and all these different histories, and we're not seeing in real time what we're really doing.
Yeah.
So, no, it wasn't Red October either.
No. It was, if you want to look it up, it's Ed Harris and Elizabeth Mastroianni was his wife.
Yes, but I can't think of the name of the movie. So he shows them in real time. So to me, that's what this movie kind of, that's what this reminds me of. It's like God is opening up and showing us all these different things, and I'm trying to put them together in my head so that you can see the movie where it makes sense.
Yes,
the abyss. That's it. Yes, thank you, whoever that was. The abyss. So that's what to me, it's like he's doing. So looking at from different perspectives, from different levels, from different layers, and that's what God is showing us through all these histories. But it's difficult for me, maybe for others, but to learn each one of these histories and then see them all come together. Some of them I've got put together, but there's some of them that are still 1989.
Really?
Is that when it came out?
FYI, I graduated in 1979. And I got married in 1989. No, I met my husband in 1989. And that was the earthquake in 1989. I never really thought about those things till all these things happened. So,
10 years.
Yeah, 10
What
years.
was I doing in 19?
What earthquake was it in 19?
Loma Prieta. So from searching and seeing these battles from these different perspectives gives us the picture of what is happening. So, and she shows an example of Matthew, another parable he put forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in the field. And who is the man?
Jesus.
And we got the answer there, but who was the man? It was Jesus. And in verse 37, this is chapter 13, it says, he answered and said unto them, he that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. So the Bible is answering itself. It's saying that it is Christ. In the story, it's from the agricultural model. We can see a man sowing represents Christ. Mark, you go to the same story in a different book, Mark 4:26 and 4:27. He said, so is the kingdom of God, as if a man should cast seed into the ground. So who's the sower here? The sower is a man, right? And should sleep and rise night and day, and the seed should spring and grow up. He knoweth not how. Christ knows how the seed grows, right? But this is a man that's doing the sowing, and the man does not know how, right? So the same story of agriculture, does God know how the seed grows? Yes, he does. Yeah. So who did this man represent? It's the same story as Matthew, and the man is Christ. Who is the man? Verse 27, he's sowing. While he's sleeping, his seed is bringing up and growing. And to the man, this is a mystery. Is it a mystery to God? No. This man has some level of humanity. It's the same story, but the man is not Christ. And Ellen White will tell us that this is us, that we sow the seed. So while the story is telling us, if I'm understanding this correctly, while the story in Matthew is telling us that it's the Son of Man that's sowing seed, but it's him sowing seed through man.
Mhm.
When we talk about a story having different levels and being able to look at it from different angles, not one of those angles is wrong, but can give us more information. It's the same thing when we consider the field. Is it the world or the church? So we can see also in history and battles on different levels, each giving us different details, more defining what is happening. In the Battle of Ipsus, we have Antigonus and Demetrius on one side. Demetrius is supported by Pyrrhus, who's acting as his general. And this is the 2016 election. And just to keep it always, I know I needed it drilled in my mind, maybe you guys don't, but just the sequence of events, the 10 years, proxy war, an alliance, and here you are at Ipsus. Antigonus, we know, means that he is equal to or like the ancestor. And who is his ancestor? Who's going back to the story, Alexander is his ancestor. And when we consider our story, that is, and you go to Daniel 8, you'll see who was the king of Greece, the first king, and that's Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great was the empire builder. So if Alexander the Great is the empire builder, then Antigonus is an empire builder, right? If he's like the ancestor, Antigonus is like the ancestor.
Never mind, because this is representing Hillary Clinton, it's not representing Trump.
We're getting there.
Because I know, because Trump, he built stuff.
Yeah,
But this
yeah,
is not him.
Right,
So
right.
I was like, oh, I can't read it.
So we have an alpha and omega here, where you have Alexander being the alpha is equal to, or Antigonus is equal to Alexander. That should be an alpha, or an omega under Antigonus. Another typo there. That should be an omega under Antigonus. Okay, so they are empire builders, because if one is like the other, then they're both empire builders. So Antigonus was the last or only general. Go ahead.
So if there's two leaders vying for King of the North rulership in 2016, is that the same as two people trying to vie for King of the North rulership in the World War II, where the papacy was trying to pick between one?
I don't know about that connection. I don't know. You're far ahead of me there.
Okay.
So Antigonus was the last or only general who could have united that empire, who was uniting the empire in the same way as Alexander the Great. But when he died, all hope was lost. You have Antigonus and Demetrius with Pyrrhus facing off against three allies. The two parties are fighting for what? What do Antigonus and Demetrius want to do? They want to defeat the allies, which means to conquer or subdue them, take them captive, or to control them. So you have Antigonus and Demetrius are fighting against for control of these three allies. This is Ipsus. And Demetrius has Pyrrhus supporting him. And to note from the previous slide that Pyrrhus is not fighting for Antigonus, he's fighting for
Demetrius.
Yeah, I was going to say the other answer. I think everybody knows where we're going. In an election cycle, what the parties are trying to control is the three branches of the U.S. government. In 2016, what are our parties fighting for? To take over and to control what? They want to control all three. Trump has the executive branch, but he's not very strong because in the midterm election last year, he lost the House. There's three branches that they're fighting for in 2016. We have two separate parties, Antigonus and Demetrius. Antigonus represents the empire builder and is equal to the ancestor that built the empire to begin with. Demetrius is entering that battle with an important ally. That ally is the king of the south, who is Antigonus, who represents the empire builder. And
Clinton.
Huh?
Clinton, isn't it?
Yeah,
Isn't it Hillary Clinton?
Hillary Clinton is Antigonus. And what is Hillary representing?
She's true Republican, the one initial in the very beginning of the building of the nation.
Yes. So if she's Antigonus, who is she like? She's like the ancestor. Okay, if you're looking at the United States, who's the ancestor? Clinton represents the Republican horn. And the ancestor to the Republican horn is George Washington. And I got to fix that on every slide because I have alpha on both of those. I need to switch that. You could call it Lincoln or Roosevelt or Reagan. You can call it anything you want. But if you want to take it to the empire builder, then Clinton is equal to what created that empire in the first place. This is the part that we need to pray for people on, because I know that there's many still that have their political ideas and opinions in the way of being able to understand this prophetically.
I'm so glad I wasn't a political person, because that really
It makes it easier to see it.
I'm so neutral. Like, I'm so neutral.
It makes it easier to see it because people have such, I mean, it's hard to erase when you see socialism coming in through the Democrats and you're fighting against socialism, and to see these conservatives that want to talk about God, right? And it's very hard for some people to separate that and look at it prophetically, what prophetically it's saying. So Hillary Clinton becomes an example of this empire or of this Republican horn. Trump, is somebody gonna say something? Trump has said that his whole campaign in 2016 rested on the argument that she represented the establishment. We turned the idea of the establishment into a dirty word. He said she's the establishment, the swamp, the government, and he was right. If you don't make them dirty words and understand that what she stood for was the Republican horn, and she's equal to the ancestor, Alexander and Antigonus, the beginning and the end. So you have George Washington, and again, please forgive me on this, that should be the omega. So you have Alexander, the alpha, Antigonus, the omega. They're empire builders. And when you come to the Republican horn, you have the builder of the empire builder of the Republican horn, George Washington, and the ancestor being George Washington, and Hillary Clinton representing that ancestor.
Could I say something?
Uh-huh.
Why else do you think she put George Washington? He was the first president.
Right, it's the first president.
Yeah, the first president. So he's the original. Yeah, I'm just wondering, like,
Yeah.
the first.
Mhm.
So.
And he was the empire builder of the
Yeah.
United States. There are two separate parties in the 2016 fight for the control of the three branches of the U.S. government. And what are they fighting for in 2016? They want those three branches. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton are the ones doing the fighting. When it comes to these parties, you have two choices, Antigonus or Demetrius. One of them is being supported by the King of the South, and one of them represents the establishment. As Donald Trump tried to define it, the swamp. And they represent an alpha and an omega. This person represents that leadership of the glorious land since it was made an empire. Then we understand in this battle who's killed, who becomes king. Demetrius becomes king and Antigonus is killed. You go back to the line of Pyrrhus, the line of Pyrrhus, Antigonus is killed, and then Demetrius is made king. So you have Clinton representing Antigonus, the empire builder, the one who's like the ancestor, the establishment, and then you have Trump, who wants to destroy the establishment. The two, Clinton and Trump, are fighting for the three branches of government. And what this story of Pyrrhus is teaching us is the story of the 2016 election.
There's a problem I don't understand. I thought Antigonus was Demetrius's dad and they were on the same side.
Well, they are because it's the United States.
Okay.
They are, in a sense, on the same side. They're all for the United States, so to speak. I may be saying this wrong, but they're all the United States, but each one wants to control those three branches of government.
So what's going to help is Clinton and Trump, they're not enemies. They're just vying for the same position. And Demetrius and Antigonus, they weren't enemies. Obviously, they were family members. But it's interesting to note that when Antigonus died, Demetrius wasn't affected much because he had his own powers and war weapons and his own army. He had his own lands. He was also very strong and rich. So they both had their own armies that they controlled. And at that battle, Demetrius ends up taking over. But Antigonus, they didn't hate each other. They were just going for the same position. And Pyrrhus was only backing one of them. So if Pyrrhus is Putin and there's collusion, Putin was backing only Trump. Hillary was on her own, and she's older and she's sick, as the videos show.
And that's why the point was made. That's why the point was made that Pyrrhus is not fighting for Antigonus.
Yeah.
He's fighting for Demetrius.
Yeah.
So Trump in this story, prophetically, is Demetrius, with Pyrrhus supporting him.
Right.
Because Pyrrhus is not supporting Antigonus. He's only supporting Demetrius. And she's right what she said, and we're going to see that, I think, in the notes, that Demetrius has his own army. They each have their own army.
Is this, no, please correct me, but isn't this where the elephant too, because Antigonus died?
That's coming.
Because of the elephant, okay.
Yeah, that's coming. So this is the Republican Party versus the Democrat Party. So you could put that on top of their names here, Republican and Democrat Party. One party stands for the Republican horn. It's an omega of the person that created the empire. Were you going to say something?
A light bulb went off because they in the battle, but I don't want to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
Because you're going to get to it. Because when they split because of those elephants, so they were never mind. Because I'm getting probably mixed up. Because weren't they fighting on the same?
Yes.
They were fighting on the
and
same.
And I don't remember if it was last week.
Split.
It might have been last week's notes that we went through that.
But then they got split up.
But I'll review it when I do. Oh, your battery, you need to plug in. So this is the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party. One party stands for the Republican horn. It's an omega of the person that created the empire. The other party is coming into the battle with the king of the south. In this battle, Antigonus is killed. Demetrius flees. He's made king, and his father is now dead. So the ancestor, or the establishment, is dead. Antigonus is killed. And it might have been last week's study that I had it in the notes, showing that the elephants, it was Seleucus that brought the elephants from the east and brought them into this battle. And those elephants came and wound up dividing Antigonus and Demetrius apart from each other. And Antigonus couldn't get to his army, couldn't get help, and they were all destroyed. And that's where Antigonus died, by the elephants. So the establishment dies because of the elephants.
Yeah. I'm thinking back to that battle and what it looked like, but yeah.
If you hand me the other end, I'll reach it over here real quick while we're on a break. Or we're not on a break, but while
A pause.
while I'm on a pause. It's not going to be long enough? Is it going to be long enough?
Yeah.
Let me plug you in here. Hang on one second, guys. Technology needs power. Okay. So we need to understand the results of Ipsus. Just reviewing what was in the previous slide, that at Ipsus, Antigonus dies. He's killed, and in the sense of Clinton, it represents the Republican horn. Demetrius, supported by Pyrrhus, Demetrius is now made king. And you remember, they came into this alliance, and they later become enemies, right? Or they are enemies, but this is the only battle they fought together. And so Pyrrhus was undefeated, and they made a point of that. Demetrius becomes king in this battle, despite the loss of his father, and Antigonus is killed. This is also the first battle Antigonus has ever lost. He's over 80 years of age, undefeated, continued his whole career representing one ancestor, undefeated. So going back to representing the ancestor, if you're going to compare him to Clinton, take it to George Washington, she represents the establishment, and the establishment had gone on undefeated until this battle. With Antigonus, he has two names, one eye given to him as a nickname, and mono, I don't know if I can say that word, but I put the description over there that I looked up. You can see that. Monophthalmos, okay. It means one eye. Like most people, he's born with two eyes. Somewhere through the course of his career, an arrow hit him in one eye and blinded it. So he begins with two eyes. Sometime before this battle, he loses one. Then in this battle, he loses the other when he dies. Antigonus represents this empire, as well as Hillary Clinton. She's representing two horns. One has already fallen in battle. It's in this battle that the other horn falls. Born with two, and in this battle, the other eye or horn is lost. So we can bring in the idea of the Republican horn. We talk about it, fallen. The Republican horn has already fallen. It fell in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost. And I think it's interesting because what actually caused, if I've got this right, what caused the Republican horn to fall? Who, I guess I would say, who caused the Republican horn to fall? If I understand this correctly.
Trump? Or Putin?
Yes, but
Conservatives, like Protestants.
there you go. Who? The Protestants. The Protestants. The first horn that fell is what actually brings down the second horn, if I'm following that correctly. Sounds like Lana sees it that way too. Is that correct?
Yes, I agree with you.
He represents the conservatives. The more I was going to take you back to 79 to 89, the moral majority. That when they get Reagan elected into office, right, and they start this whole campaign, and this is their whole purpose, is to take down the establishment. And so you've got the Protestants that are backing Trump that takes down the Republican horn. So the Protestant horn fell way back in 1844, right? And here we are now. It's the Protestants that took out the Republican horn.
Yeah, amazing.
Destroyed from within, right? Destroyed ourselves from within. And so now we went through in Antigonus, we'll go through Demetrius now. Demetrius has interesting morals. Most of the significant battles he lost, or his number one weakness, was the fact that his own people were disgusted with him. Right? So Demetrius means Demeter, or Demeter was the goddess of corn and harvest.
He's the president during all the harvests.
He's the president during the harvest.
That's my father's name.
Demeter?
Dimitru.
Oh, wow.
So Demetrius brings the harvest. Without Demetrius, there is no harvest. She's going to mention, I'm pretty sure she's talking about Parminder here. She said, go back to our symbology. People come here, and she's talking to the people in Brazil. And I couldn't think of how to reword this, otherwise I would have reworded it. So I'm just going to tell it how she said it. Go back to our symbology. People come here to teach from Arkansas. She probably smiled when she said this, but I was taking notes too. So they come from Arkansas, whose name starts with P. And I know he was present during this because he talks during these presentations. That these are both that are equally bad, both Trump and Clinton. They're equally bad. That both could have won that election, but it's good that Clinton didn't win, because if she had won, the world would have ended a lot sooner.
Yeah, it's interesting that I used to think that way too. I thought that the choice was between evil and lesser evil.
That's what, yeah.
Everyone saw that.
But now, yeah, but Sister Tess, she shows how it was between good and evil. It was not between evil and lesser evil,
Well, that's really interesting. Woe to those who call good evil and evil good, because we thought the evil was good.
Yeah.
Right? We thought the evil was good. We all had it wrong.
Wait, what?
So then what does she say? Because we're missing that. We need to read that.
Yeah, I'll read it. But woe to those who call evil good and good evil.
What were they
So
calling?
we were actually thinking that the conservatives, the Republican Party, were the good. But they're the ones that bring down the establishment. They're the evil.
Right.
Where
but
people thought that Clinton was the evil one because she wants to bring in socialism.
Right, but didn't somebody just say that if she would have won, the world would have ended sooner?
Well, according to this, if I'm following
So that's
her
the
dialogue,
thing,
she said
is if
Parliament
you
said
don't
that.
finish reading that, it's confusing.
Yeah, I'm going to read it. Read it. Okay, so there's a problem with that. With Donald Trump, there is no without Donald Trump, there is no harvest. Harvest only came from one of those people. We wouldn't face Raffia, Panium, Sunday Law without Donald Trump. If Hillary Clinton won, what do we have? Same as the ancestors, same as George Washington,
Right.
another 4 years of Abraham Lincoln or Roosevelt. Not the end of the world.
See, that's what I remember learning. But then, if that's the case, if she would have won 4 years, then how would the world have ended sooner?
It wouldn't have.
That's what I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, she's saying she was correcting that he was wrong.
Oh, okay.
When he came here and taught that.
Oh,
She was correcting that he was wrong when he came here and taught that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was like, what? And then, yeah. Anyways, but
So we need to start considering these battles, particularly Ipsus. They actually was how we should observe our election and what these two people stood for. If that makes us uncomfortable, we might need to start rethinking our thought process.
She was good because she destroyed Putin's lackey in the Middle East.
that's why I wanted.
She overthrew him. That's why he hates her.
Uh-huh.
She didn't play ball with him. She went after him.
And the conservatives, the Protestants, united with him.
Yeah, so she knew what side she was on at least. Unlike this Trump.
So we need to start rethinking our thought process and why it would make us uncomfortable, because prophecy has laid it out quite simply. And again, going back to, and this is something that is emphasized, how much we need to understand this going into November 9. We will not be able to understand. We will not be able to continue going forward and understand if we don't accept these things as we go along. We need to see them prophetically. The difference between the Democrats and the Republicans, not from the standpoint of the conservatives and the Protestant churches as if they're good, and as if the Democratic Party is all after socialism and they're bad. We need to see it prophetically, line upon line. What is it teaching us? And the Republican Party here is the bad one. And we should have known that anyways, because we know that, and we know even more so now, that it's the Protestants, the daughter of Babylon. She's the one now, not the mother. She's declined in power, and it's the daughter.
And Elaine, another tip-off would be God's way is separation of church and state. So whichever side is supporting separation of church and state, which in this case likely was Hillary Clinton and the establishment.
Yeah, well, that's
versus the one who's in essence pushing, cooperating with church and state being combined.
Right, and that's the whole point of it all, is that the establishment, in the beginning, the establishment was the separation of church and state. That's what she does represent, is the separation of church and state. She may represent other things, but what we need to be looking at prophetically wise is that she represents the separation of church and state in the establishment.
I want to say something when you're done.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just, it might be a little bit off base, but it's hearing this and everything like that. I know that there were family members and even friends who were divided with our president and with Hillary, and they would say all kinds of bad things about Hillary because there was all kinds of misinformation. And had not that all that misinformation come out, our country probably would not be so divided. Families would not be so divided. There wouldn't be so much hate that we have right now. You know what I mean? So it was just, well, because I just remember in the house and they're just arguing over this and they're hating. My family are hating.
Yeah, it developed into civil war.
Mm-hmm.
civil war of bloodshed that we've seen in the past.
You know what?
It's a different civil war.
It's the Battle of Armageddon.
Yeah.
Because Armageddon is the valley of decision, and Ellen White writes that when I think she says when the angel of Revelation 18 lightens the earth with his glory, the powers of Satan will be riled up, and everyone will be in the Battle of Armageddon and will be either on one side or the other of the issue. Which she's alluding there that the battle is a question. Or on one side or the other of the question, she said. So it's a question, it's a thought mind war.
Yeah.
Which is what Putin was influencing with his information warfare. He polarized the whole country with his misinformation. And that Cambridge Analytica and all of that.
Yeah, and that one guy with the ass who brought out all the Sorster, I don't know his name, but when he first came out too with all his Licky Weeks.
Yeah, I have a quote I'd like to read later if you have a chance. That was really
Assange?
interesting.
You can read it now if you want, huh?
Julian Assange.
Oh, yeah, probably Assange. Is that what you said, Julia?
No, the other kid that's in Russia. The younger one.
Oh, Snowden.
Yeah, Snowden.
Yeah.
Let me see. I think I have it right here. I thought I did. Yeah, okay. So this is, I'm going to read something real quick. This is from 14MR 286.3 to 288.2. The angel, the mighty angel from heaven, is to lighten the earth with his glory. While he cries mightily with a loud voice, Babylon the great is fallen. Oh, how I wish the church to arise and shine, because the glory of the Lord has risen upon her. What can we not do in God if every human agency is doing its very utmost? Without me, ye can do nothing. John 15:5. We would lose faith and courage in the conflict if we were not sustained by the power of God. Every form of evil is to spring into intense activity. Evil angels unite their powers with evil men, and as they have been in constant conflict and attained an experience in the best modes of deception and battle, and have been strengthening for centuries, they will not yield the last great final contest without a desperate struggle. All the world will be on one side or the other of the question. The Battle of Armageddon will be fought, and that day must find none of us sleeping. Wide awake we must be, as wise virgins, having oil in our vessels with our lamps. What is this? Grace, grace. She ties us in with the virgins also. The power of the Holy Ghost must be upon us, and the captain of the Lord's host will stand at the head of the angels of heaven to direct the battle. Solemn events before us are yet to transpire. Trumpet after trumpet is to be sounded, vial after vial poured out, one after another upon the inhabitants of the earth. Scenes of stupendous interest are right upon us, and these things will be sure indications of the presence of Him who has directed in every aggressive movement, the one who has accompanied the march of His cause through all the ages, and who has graciously pledged Himself to be with His people in all their conflicts to the end of the world. He will vindicate His truth. He will cause it to triumph. He is ready to supply His faithful ones with motives and powers of purpose, inspiring them with hope and courage and valor and increased activity as the time is at hand. And I'm going to skip, here. Deceptions, delusions, impostors will increase. The cries will come from every quarter. Lo, here is Christ. Lo, there is Christ. But, said Christ, go ye not after them. There will be one fierce struggle before the man of sin shall be disclosed to the world, who he is and what he has been and what has been his work. While the Protestant world is becoming very tender and affectionate toward the man of sin, shall God's people take their place as bold and valiant soldiers of Jesus Christ to meet the issue which must come, their lives hid with Christ in God? Mystic Babylon has not been sparing in blood of the saints, and shall be wide awake to catch the beams of light which have been shining from the light of the angel who is to brighten the earth with, that sounds wrong. And shall we be wide awake to catch the beams of the light which have been shining from the light of the angel who is to brighten the earth with his glory? From Revelation 18. Wake up, the mighty men. Let the messages of the past 50 years that have been sounding now be seen in their true force and bearing by repetition. Let the same spirit which attended these messages come into our hearts in these last days. These things are not to be mentioned with gloom and sadness. We are to think how heaven regards these events and to be in harmony with the transactions going on in heaven and preparing a people to stand in this day, the day of the Lord. And having done all to stand, Ephesians 6:13, let the light and power of the sunbeams of righteousness enter into the soul. So it goes over the warfares and the Armageddon and the question and the events. And I thought it was interesting. She was saying, though, look, we have to go back over the history of the past 50 years and understand it all. And so we have to look back at our past 50 years of the history and look back over it all.
So you have two people, two institutions or parties. One represents the ancestor, Alexander the Great, and how this country became great in the first place and is continuing that legacy. The other stands for harvest, allied with the King of the South. In this battle, Trump is made king. So at the Battle of Ipsus, 2016, he was made king. And Antigonus dies, the establishment dies. Taking over his three allies, three branches of the US government, Demetrius is made king, Pyrrhus is undefeated. In other words, the King of the South is not yet. The King of the South doesn't receive a deadly wound yet. The King of the South is still alive. Antigonus had already lost one eye, so he's already fighting at a disadvantage. One horn had already fallen. It's just interesting that one horn was the Protestant horn, and it's the Protestants that killed the second horn. When he's defeated in that battle, or when Clinton loses that election, the Republican horn is broken. It is now hopeless to unite that empire. It is gone.
I think, can I say something?
Mm-hmm.
It's so sad when you watch the documentary on Hillary Clinton and like just her life and what she stood for. She was really for America, you know, and all, I mean, even before she married Bill Clinton, she stood for what America was all about, like her whole lifestyle. But it was when she married Clinton that, because America didn't want that, the Protestants didn't like that. They didn't like a female who was like, what you call it, breaking the glass ceiling, didn't like someone, like the image she was, America hated, like already. So she had to kind of humble her role under her husband in order for him to even become president, get his spot that he was. When you watch her documentary, it's just kind of sad that she could never be it to begin with. She could never be, I mean, not saying that it wasn't possible, but it just wouldn't happen because of the mindset that
prophetically they still have.
She wasn't being the wife of like she should have been. The lady she should have been standing by her husband. Yeah. They didn't like it. They didn't like the way she dressed or anything. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
When we look at the Battle of Ipsus, we're going to look at it from two different perspectives. And this is one of those perspectives. And what we don't understand now, the other perspective will clarify. But like when we look at it, a verse, we don't go to another verse to explain the one we don't understand. Antigonus is killed by particularly Seleucus. And what does Seleucus use to kill him? And this is where the elephants come in. Because Seleucus comes back from a battle in the east, if I recall that, and comes back with 400 or 500 elephants. I think I've heard her say both, so I didn't know which it was, 400 or 500. And it's the elephants that then come in and divide Demetrius and Antigonus, and they can't get their armies together to defeat, and the elephants take out Antigonus and his army. Antigonus is killed by particularly Seleucus, by the elephants. We would identify that as a new mode of warfare, because that was the first time elephants came into battle, correct? Okay. In this battle, Antigonus is killed by elephants or as a result of the elephants. One thing to consider in this battle, it's discussing a civil war, which is essentially what 2016 was. Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump are not just people, but they're political parties. And where do the political parties dwell? Where political parties are made up of people, right? The political parties. Is this a Republican? Is this the Republican and Democrats? If this is the Republicans and Democrats, what are the Republicans and Democrats? It's people. So they're representing people. These are in some ways the allies. If we're talking about a new mode of warfare, what do we understand that new mode of warfare to be? The information war. And who invented it? The internet. Who invented it? And the deep web.
The internet?
Isn't it?
Berners-Lee?
Yeah.
Berners.
Well, I don't have
Tim
that in this
Berners-Lee.
particular study, but it was the United States. The deep web, it was the Navy, the United States
Oh,
Navy.
the deep web. Yeah, it was the so Tim Berners-Lee just developed a web browser. It wasn't the internet.
So it was developed by the United States, and so we're taken down by our own weapon.
Wow. That just goes to show you kill by a sword, you die by a sword.
Oh, yeah.
If you look into the 2016 election, we all understand how blessed and privileged we are to even see this. When we look at Adventism today, how much they're missing, and to think that there are Levites that are seeing what's going on, to think that the Nethinims are going to know what's going on without God's people doing the work they were supposed to do.
Wow, that's God.
Are we not blessed and privileged to know this? We should cherish every bit of what He's giving us, and not only say all that the Lord has said that we do, but to do it.
Amen.
Because we're going into this battle. If we go into this battle thinking that there are giants we can't conquer, or we try to go into this battle with still a Laodicean heart, we will fail. We'll die. And that's what Ananias and Sapphira were teaching us. We'll die. So the United States invented it, and we're taken down by our own weapon. If you look into the 2016 election, Hillary Clinton was looking like she was going to win until James Comey announced he was investigating her a few days before the election. Where would you place James Comey on the line? He was in the FBI. He would be with the allies.
Where are we?
Judicial, right?
Oh.
The judicial branch, is that right?
Yeah.
You can
Judicial,
see
executive, and legislative. Yeah, judicial.
Yeah. You can see this story on its own, but we also want to look at it from another perspective, and we'll gain more light on that, particularly the elephants, and that's not in this study. Republicanism, and sometimes I don't always use their dialogue that's going on between the questions, but some of these questions I wanted to put in what they say. But republicanism is a system of government and not the political parties, because I think somebody was asking, how can you call her the Republican horn when she's a Democrat? And so, because there may be Americans that don't understand the difference of that. I know I didn't for many years. The story or structure shows where to place the Republican horn. The Republican Party was established just before the Civil War in the 1850s. They've actually switched roles, and we talked about this Wednesday. Was it Wednesday?
Yeah.
An example for that is in the American Civil War. The Republican Party was fighting to free the slaves, but by the time you get to the Civil Rights Movement, they're opposing the Civil Rights Movement, not the Democrats. So the Republicans have swapped roles. There's actually a period of history where they changed roles from what they represented when they were created. On our reform line in 1989, it's the Republican Party that speaks for Protestantism. It's Reagan, a Republican, that goes into an alliance with John Paul II. George Bush, Republican at 9/11, and it's Trump now, a Republican, and it'll be a Republican at the Sunday Law. They're the ones tied to Protestantism. And March 20th, 1854 was marking the beginning of the Republican Party. In America, there was the Northern States and the Southern Bible Belt. The Northern States was the Republican Party. What, you gonna say something?
I forgot what
the name, Bubble.
Oh.
Sorry, to me, I tripled that Bible Belt, but sorry.
I had forgotten what republicanism is.
The
And so
government for the people, of the people, by the people.
Yeah, it says a state in which supreme power is held by the people and their elected representatives, and which has an elected or nominated president rather than a monarch. But he's turning into a monarch.
Well,
That's what happened in 2016.
It's not a
He
government
doesn't
of the
change.
people, it's a government of Donald Trump.
but didn't we, I've read in the Spirit of Prophecy quote that regardless it's a president or monarchy, it's the same, it's the same kind of government. I don't know where I read that, but the president is as a king. I don't know where I read it, but the president it's not the same kind of government as monarchy, but the executive branch is like a king of the nation. I don't know how to put that, but I read that, so I gotta find that quote. But
He has to be accountable. The three branches were for checks and balances, right?
yes.
So what the Democrats are actually doing right now is they're being accused of not doing their job, right? But they are doing their job because the whole system was put in place for checks and balances, right? And so they're trying to keep things in check and done right.
Yeah, I agree with you.
It's a political game.
It is a game. And I'm not saying everything they stand for is right. I'm just looking at prophetically, they're doing their job with what they're trying to call this president into account for some of his actions. And if we didn't have them screaming, then what? It's interesting to think about that. So in America, there was the northern states and the southern Bible Belt. The northern states were the Republican Party. The first president was Abraham Lincoln. They fought of the Republicans, the first Republican president. But they fought for the abolition of slavery. But now it's like they've switched roles, especially seen in the civil rights movement. Now it's the South, the Bible Belt, that's so strongly Republican. And it's the North that's Democrat for the most part, how they are divided. I thought that was interesting when I was going through this. And so I looked it up just to verify that, because I know like Lindsey Graham, they all have that Southern accent. Then I never paid attention to any of these things, but they're from the South. All these ones are from the South. So in the Battle of Ipsus, it's the elephants that decide the battle. The elephants cut off Antigonus and he's killed. We understand the elephants represent a new mode of warfare, which will be defined. So the Bible Belt is an informal region in the southern United States in which socially conservative evangelical Protestantism, isn't that where all the racism is? That's really interesting because that's where the slaves were. Yep. And it is totally reversed. But these people, this generation today, they carry the beliefs of their ancestors and the attitudes and opinions of their ancestors.
It's the Agrippa, because they have the 4 generations back of the slavery and how all it was, and they know that it was wrong, but they refuse to change. So they're continuing to keep on the traditions of the ancestors. When it's time for them to have more light and change, they don't do it.
They don't do it. They choose to abide in death.
Yeah.
So let's see, evangelical Protestant plays a strong role in society and politics, and Christian church attendance across the denominations is generally higher than the nation's average. The region is usually contrasted with the religiously diverse Midwest and Great Lakes, the Mormon border in Utah and southern Idaho, and relatively secular Western and New England regions of the United States, whereas the state with the highest percentage of residents identifying as non-religious is the New England state of Vermont at 37%, and the Bible Belt state of Alabama, it is just 12%. Tennessee has the highest proportion of evangelical Protestants at 52%.
Your map seems not right.
Huh?
That map seems weird.
You can pull up another one if you want.
Oh no, yeah, it is right. I just thought it was a belt shape, not like a blob.
Oh.
I thought I looked it up before.
So in Revelation 3, we have the Church of Laodicea, which represents the condition of Adventism at the end of the world. one thing we understood from Acts 27 is that you can parallel the path of Adventism with the United States. Both institutions and their paths parallel at every single waymark. The problem with Adventism is we've forgotten why we were raised up, what principles raised us up in the first place. We compare and contrast. It would be an interesting study to see what the United States was created for. We're reading the Constitution in different ways because we got to 2016. It's the Protestants that are going to lead Donald Trump to restore the Constitution. They're in their reading of the Constitution, they want to claim that we're a Christian nation. So they understand the Constitution wrong. The lines of prophecy show that he's the one that destroys it. And Hillary Clinton stands for people that created it in the first place. Consider the Constitution and what the United States was raised for. We don't know how wrong we got the 2016 election. It goes deeper than we should have known Trump would win, because whoever was going to win must be rich, and we think he's got a lot of stuff. So that was a lot of our attitudes, is that he's the one. Once we know that the 45th president is the last, which one is it going to be? Well, he's supposed to be richer than them all, so we're guessing when lines of prophecy told us who it was. It goes deeper than that, why we got the 2016 wrong. It wasn't reading into his personal wealth that made us get it wrong. It's how we're defining politics and the Constitution and which stream of information we're listening to. So we had forgotten the principles and forgotten the Constitution and forgotten that our job, as A.T. Jones went out and defended the Constitution, the separation of church and state, not.
I have to say.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I have to say that I was talking to one of my church members, sisters at church, and we were talking about the prayer in schools, and she has many in our church think that they have the same kind of thinking as Tess was showing of evangelical Protestants, that all of this is a judgment, but the judgment because of we don't have prayers in schools, we don't have because of we removing God from our businesses and politics, while this is exactly the opposite. And many in church, they think that they have no idea what true Adventism truly stands for. And that is really striking, which is really, really bad, because we literally forgot who we are and why we're here. So sorry for interjecting.
No, that's fine.
You want me to read it? Or?
Yeah, where's that from?
It's from
generations before.
MS8.
There's a manuscript, but it means unreleased because it doesn't say, right? Just the one paragraph or the first one?
Just
Yeah.
those two because they go together.
Yeah. I'm going to read something that Sister Victoria pulled up.
Mom, hang on a second, Mom.
What were you saying? Sorry.
Okay,
Oh.
so I'm going to read something from it's MS8, MS8, 1884, paragraphs 2 and 3. By me, kings reign and princes decree justice. By me, princes rule and nobles, even all the judges of the earth. There is no argument that the monarchy is his preference. On the contrary, when his people first wanted a king, he was exceedingly displeased because it was a declaration that they no longer desired him as their theocratic governor. Nevertheless, in accordance with their wishes, he gave them a king, just as in accordance with our wishes, he gives us a president. In other words, he ordains that no nation can exist without an authoritative head, whether that head shall be emperor or king or president or democratic judge. He leaves to the particular nation to determine for itself.
What was that again? MSA?
MSA 1884, paragraphs 2 and 3.
And that was just in relation to that. What was my point that I said earlier?
Well, you looked up monarchy.
You were saying that you read somewhere that the president was like a king.
Yeah.
But that quote, when I heard it, reminded me of this, how gracious and true to God that we serve is, because he gives us all freedom of choice. And even the nation is allowed to decide whether they're going to have the constitutional presidency with the checks and balances, or whether they're going to have a king. Just right, which is what Trump is. They've elected a king.
Right.
And the same as the church. They're allowed to, right? God was giving them the freedom of choice as well, to worship him or to go along with, you know, a king. They want a king too. That's why they're just like ancient Israel. They wanted a king.
So
right? They didn't want the prophet Samuel. They don't want these prophecies, prophetic truths.
So as per the conversation during lunch, how can he, because I questioned that myself a while back, how can he be a dictator because the dictator's not elected? They did elect him.
Wow, yeah, they
elected a monarchy.
Yeah, they chose a dictator. God allowed them to choose a dictator.
Well, he kind of forced his way in with false information.
Right, right. I know that, but I just, I've said that before.
With electing a dictator is that you have only one person to elect. You're forced to go to election, but there's only one person to elect.
Oh.
That's how it was when Ceausescu was a dictator.
Oh, here's your candidates, just him. Go ahead and vote.
Yeah, that's how it was when we were forced. It was mandatory. They would put you in jail if you don't go to vote for him.
Well, I think that's actually
we
going
can
to
see that's
happen
where
in
we're
the
headed.
next. Yeah, that's
there.
That's the next election. But propaganda does play a big role because everyone's always talked about that you don't know of all who's running. You only know based on what they put in the news. Like you have a list of candidates who are running for presidency or the president's spot or whatever position they want, but you don't know of who they are. But the ones that are, put up on the news, so.
And the news covers up who they like.
Yeah, it's always about that kind of.
So to recap Ipsus, from this perspective, we see two parties or two people, Antigonus and Demetrius, both going into this battle against three allies. Antigonus is cut off from his army due to the elephants, and he can't be saved, he dies. Demetrius becomes king. He's going to this battle with a general, Pyrrhus. We defined Antigonus as equal to the ancestor. If he's equal to the ancestor, then we go to the alpha. We can do an alpha and omega, a beginning and an end of the empire. You can line up George Washington as the beginning of this empire with Hillary Clinton. We also understand that he had one eye, born with two, lost one through the course. So the United States was born with two horns, right? Lost one through the course of his life. At Ipsus, he's killed, loses his other eye. There's nothing wrong with that other eye. He's fighting in the battle at over 80 years of age with only one eye. Note the eye or the horn is intact. It's not something that has been damaged in history where it finally crumbles. He falls when it's he falls when he's killed. So the horn falls when he's killed. So and somebody asked a question about this, about it, aren't we marking it as progressive? So that answer kind of comes into this. So we define Demetrius coming from the word Demeter, and Demeter meaning the goddess of corn and harvest. So it's Demetrius that brings the harvest. Without Donald Trump, there would be no raffia and paneum. If there's no raffia and paneum, we don't have a harvest. When it comes to this story, this should give us hope that we're not going to be on this planet much longer. Of sorrow and pain and suffering and sadness, starvation, and everything else, that we can't go home without the harvest.
the other beautiful thing is that it will be no more. Once you do make it home, you won't have to go through that anymore. That's one thing.
So when it comes to this story, Demetrius, we can see the horn intact and falling at once. We can mark a dictator in 2016, 2019, Panium and Sunday Law. And at each waymark, we can see the raising up of the dictator. We can see the horn broken at other points. We're just showing in this story, it's not giving the idea of a gradual breakdown. So remember, you look at it from different perspectives, and in this story, it's showing it dies at a point. The ancestor and Antigonus is consistent all the way until 2016. To make sure we don't put into history what we want to see and building a story of destruction that is not in the story, but people make application of 9/11 and say that the horn falls. So when we consider World War II, we don't have 6 players, you just have 5. It doesn't give us the story of Antigonus and Demetrius, because when we come to World War II, Hitler is already in power. Now it's just a story of 2, the King of the North and the King of the South. 5 players and not 6. To consider what it looks like, we have Hitler being supported by Stalin against a 3-fold enemy. What's Hitler going to take? He's going to take Poland. He goes into Poland and he takes it. He takes it rapidly or fast. One branch is taken quickly. What then happens is it starts war with the West. So when he takes Poland, or when Trump takes the executive branch, he starts war on the Western Front. And it just a definition up there of Demeter to get it, that it is the goddess of earth and harvest. Her greatest gifts to mankind was corn and the knowledge of agricultural techniques.
May I say here something?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I really started following this movement is because of the understanding of the World War II, because of also understanding of that what's going on right now in politics is a test. I knew that it was a test. When I saw all this happening, I thought it's not possible for this not to be a test. And I saw the way I thought of it was that it was a test for everybody, but mostly for the world, not for the church. Meaning that if the church fails this test, it's pretty bad. And the reason, the way I saw it is that he's truly a vile person. And the things that he stands for is vile. And yet, people cannot tell the right from wrong on a very simple, basic level. Like, you don't even need prophecy. You just, if you're just simple, humble person, simple, humble Netanyahu, you will be able to tell what's right and wrong if you have a right background.
Yeah, it is sad that the ones that were supposed to know all this in advance and warn the world didn't do the job, and that God is doing the job, that these events are doing the plowing and raining. This is rain to the world. When we realize what we're looking at, the rain has been doctrine for us, right? But to the world, the rain is this. It's these external events that is their rain. That's raining on them. So you have the King of the North and the King of the South, Hitler. Antigonus is, by the time you get here, Antigonus is is in World War II. Antigonus is already gone. I don't know. I probably said that wrong. But you don't have that battle is already fought by the time you get to here. So I might have said that wrong, but I think you got the point. Hitler's already in power, and Trump is already in power. So if we consider the invasion of Poland,
Whose iPhone? JBuff 5.
that's Jackie.
Okay.
If we consider the invasion of Poland, it's something different to consider. When we talk about World War II, how many fronts are there? In World War II, there were 2 fronts. The invasion of Poland is Hitler taking on those allies. He takes Poland quickly. What did Donald Trump take quickly? He took the executive branch. Didn't he just kind of come in and there he was?
Yeah.
Not part of the establishment? So one branch was taken quickly. The legislative and judicial branch take time. And this sparks, that we don't see in the history of Pyrrhus, this war on the Western Front. So 2016 started war on the Western Front. And he's fighting this war on the Western Front in order to have all three branches so that he can do his ultimate goal and take out the other superpower. So he's united with the King of the South for a purpose, to take the three allies, so then he can go destroy the King of the South. So when did World War II begin in our history and application?
2016.
2016 on the Western Front. In the actual history, it ended in 1945. Where would we mark World War II repeating?
Where are we?
We're asking several questions here at once, but we're in here. So before World War II begins, what did the King of the North and the King of the South do? She's trying to help these people through this class, and I thought it would help us too, because they had questions on this whole point. So this is a dialogue that's kind of going on between them.
Yeah.
They weren't understanding the Western Front beginning and the parallels.
Oh, okay.
So before World War II begins, what did the King of the North and the King of the South do? We know that. What did they do before? Before 2016, they had what?
Yeah,
Alliance.
Yep, they had an alliance. They went into alliance. When did they make the alliance in our history?
In 2014.
And it was called collusion. And it's war on two fronts, first on the Western Front and then the Eastern Front. So where does the Western Front begin? 2016. At the election.
Wait, but what's the Eastern branch or Eastern?
That's to come.
Oh.
Did she talk about it?
We don't get there yet.
Because I'm wondering, have any of you guys seen the new Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson?
Yes.
Yes.
British twin who loves him with his whole heart. Oh,
I saw that in the news. Yeah.
So Europe and Russia are right there next to each other. I wonder if that's going to be the Eastern Front with information warfare and everything going up against Putin.
You know, I also think that I'm not sure. Anybody can go and look him up, but his first name is Russian. Boris is a Russian name.
Boris isn't his actual real name though.
Okay.
His first real name, I think, is Alexander something Johnson.
Well, definitely not a Russian name.
Yeah, I don't know why he took. That's a good question. Why did he take a Russian name?
That's suspicious right there.
Yeah.
And if he took it deliberately, he may have been thinking of what it means, because Boris means fight.
No.
Yeah, you got a point, Lana.
So if we'll finish this dialogue here in a second, but to the question about the war on the Eastern Front, no, it doesn't go there from here. But what was in the history of World War II? What was the war on the Eastern Front?
Between him and Russia, Hitler and Russia. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she asked the question.
Yeah.
So the war on the Eastern Front is not covered in here yet, but war on the Eastern Front was when it goes against Russia.
That's
right.
That's Barbarossa. Right?
Well,
I still got to look at it. She said no. Because I still have in my head.
I thought it was.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I got to go back and look. She said she looked it up because she has her notes there handy. That Barbarossa was brought in.
At Panium, Russia joins the Allies and Germany gets defeated.
Okay, give me the name of. Give me the different names. Those are what I'm familiar with. Barbarossa.
That one doesn't have a name. The one at Panium doesn't have a name. It's just 1945 when Germany is defeated.
So the question will be, where is
Barbarossa is Raffia.
Yeah.
It's this year.
So that still would be correct.
Where everyone is getting confused is the King of the North won. What is it? Won at Raffia. And in Operation Barbarossa, the King of the North won because he went on the attack.
The King of the South Okay.
The
good
King
night,
of the
because
North
you're talking
won
about the
because it's
opposite.
an alpha history. So what happens there is backwards from what happens in our line.
Yeah, I need that chart. I need to get that chart made. I don't know if you have, no, not that one.
Oh.
The one where she has the boxes. I need to get that so I get that more in my head. Where she has all the histories lined up in the boxes, who won and who lost. I need to get that more in my head.
To everyone?
I don't have it made, so it's
You
in the
did
video.
email
When you have it, post it.
You emailed it because you took the picture from the videos.
Oh, I took a picture of it maybe, but I didn't draw it out yet. Yeah, so okay, if I
Oh.
took a picture of it, I'll try to find it. So, because I thought that that would be very helpful to have that handy, because I'm trying to remember. So help me with.
I can make it real quick since I have this here, but
I think what I'm confusing with is because these 4 wars that Pyrrhus is involved in, right? Ipsus is the first. Then you have Heraclea. That's what I needed to remember. Then you have Asculum. Then you have Barbarossa. Okay, so
Beneventum. Beneventum, you said Barbarossa.
Yeah, it's Beneventum.
Beneventum, okay. But they all have different, from the different lines, different names. Help me to remember so that I can have Barbarossa in my head as midnight.
Asculum.
Huh?
Barbarossa is Asculum.
Okay. That's probably why I'm struggling to try to get because they have different names depending on the line you're looking at, and it's confusing to me in my head. Okay. Barbarossa is Asculum, and Asculum is Raphia. Correct?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
So wait, which one is Raphia?
They're all 3 just different battles that all are.
That's what Sister Elizabeth is asking.
Asculum, Barbarossa, and Raphia are all the same battle. Different lines. Or different histories, I guess I would say. Different histories.
Thank you. She said thank you.
Okay. So when did the King of the North and the King of the South enter into an alliance to take on the Allies? That was 2014. When did World War II begin in our time? That's 2016. And this is war on the Western Front. And he's on the Western Front, he's fighting for control of those 3 allies. If the news looks intense, it's because they're reporting war on the Western Front. Some of them recognize that what they're living through. We recognize that sometime over in this history, and she's referring on the screen for those that might see my mouse, over in this history, we recognize that over in this history, there will be war on the Eastern Front. What is war on the Eastern Front? Who is Hitler fighting on the Eastern Front?
Russia.
Russia, the King of the South, the USSR, Stalin. We understand that Trump will fight Putin when war begins on the Eastern Front. It's worth paying attention to what's happening now. What did the Eastern Front look like? I think that's supposed to say Western there. What did the Western Front look like? In World War, or maybe that is what she's talking about. In World War II, war on the Eastern Front, and she is talking about here. That was correct. In World War II, war on the Eastern Front looked almost identical to war on the Western Front. So if we want to know what it looks like when Trump and Putin are fighting, then we should be observing how Trump is fighting on the Western Front. He's going to fight the same way. 2014, collusion is for a purpose, for war on the Western Front. So if I'm following what she just said there, we look at how we fought on the Western Front, and it was collusion, right? So it's going to be collusion again?
Okay. So right here, is that meant to be Western?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Just want to fight the same way.
The collusion was for a purpose.
For war on
The collusion in 2014 was preparation for war on the Western Front.
Oh, so this is just one whole sentence here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, one's just defining the other. So then,
Yeah.
2014 collusion, the purpose of the collusion was the preparation for the war on the Western Front. And the Western Front is a war against the 3 allies. That's 2016 Ipsus. And he won the executive branch.
Oh, so the war on so then we want to know, looking at the Western Front, what the Eastern Front is going to look like. So that's going to look like him winning again.
So it would be collusion.
Yeah, and him winning again.
On the Eastern Front.
Yeah.
But if his enemy that he's going to take out is Putin, there's collusion, right?
Yeah.
So he's gonna collude with.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe he's going to collude with Boris.
I know. I was thinking that.
And I guess that was the end. So, I'm at questions or comments or thoughts.
Well, this is probably a stupid question.
Those two questions, I got so much I need to learn.
You asking than me.
Oh my goodness. So since since apostate Protestantism is the Pope that we were watching, is the man of sin, what's the eighth kingdom? Who's the eighth? Is it the Pope?
You know, I have that I don't think that's well, if that's a stupid question, I'm stupid too then. Because I've been wondering that too when it comes to what the quote that she was reading a bit ago about the man of sin, because what's kind of gone through my head lately is, well, wait a second, do we need to rethink the man of sin?
Yeah.
And I don't know.
And you have to keep it consistent, because I remember that was one thing I learned when I first started learning this message, that Jeff, when he went to some revelation to some speaker before God used him for this message, that he was listening to the guy's logic, and the guy was interchanging. Sometimes he was saying it's literal, and sometimes he was saying it was symbolic, and back and forth. And you guys will remember him telling this story. And he go up to the guy after and told him, I know you're wrong. And even though he didn't understand why he knew the guy was wrong, he knew he was wrong because he knew that it would need to remain consistent, Jeff, right? And so the guy told him, well, then you need to go study and show me why I'm wrong. But, so what I'm thinking is, if we're to use that line of logic, then if we've gone to apostate Protestantism, we can't switch back to Pope. We have to stay consistent, right?
Right.
Yeah, and Pat Ramby put I believe this is right, this is correct answer, thank you for that one, that the Pope controls the evangelicals who then control Trump, as Jezebel controlled Ahab from behind the curtain. So you got the mother and the daughter dancing. So she is behind the scenes controlling the daughter, correct?
But will she reveal herself? Is there a time like the Wizard of Oz when Toto pulls the curtain back and you see who's really working the show?
Dr. Sunday Law.
And so the man of sin is revealed, right?
Well, will it be the Pope that's revealed?
Putting that thought process in it, then maybe that, because I know I've had that same question lately that you had, but remembering, and I thank you for this, because man, it's so hard. We got so many different stories in our mind to remember Jezebel, that she's behind the scenes pulling the strings. So maybe that does mean the Pope is still the man of sin.
No, because that also makes me think of Herodias and
Salome.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about when we're talking about dancing.
It's the same thing.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You said Jezebel.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, it's the same scenario. Yeah. Same scenario. So
Pat wrote something.
Pat seems to think it will be the Pope, because the 8th is of the 7, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's because it is the King of the North that's resurrected in the end. But number 8, how do you say? Number 8, this is number of resurrection, so it's resurrected, right?
It's a symbol of resurrection.
Right. So resurrection is a new life, right? So the papacy has this new life, right? So it'll be different.
So interesting, boy.
Station, yeah. Hey, Lisa, did this slideshow work better than videos for you? We're good. Okay, good. Because we're looking to probably continue doing it this way. The best we can. And I want to mention that I would surely like to see if somebody would like to offer their services for proofreading. And anybody that either can work in Publisher or PowerPoint. Because if I sent the PowerPoint slides out, because I noticed there are several errors in there that It's like if these are going out, and they are going out, then I need to get the errors corrected, and I just don't have time to put the notes together and go back and review it. So anybody that wants to,
I think Lisa said she would.
we'd have to figure out how to
Oh,
work it
yeah,
out to where somebody that works in the same program. So whether they can do it in PowerPoint, because the publisher notes are where I do it first, and they're wrong in the publisher notes, and then they're still wrong. Some of them I catch, but then I don't get them corrected in both. So we need somebody that can maybe work in publisher and PowerPoint that can correct them. I just don't have time to do both. I don't have time to.
Publisher you have to buy, right? That's a program you have to buy, ePublisher, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have it. I can't help you.
Are they underlined? If they're wrong, are they underlined that they're wrong?
No, not always. Sometimes it doesn't catch it that because it might be an actual word. It's just not a sequence. So, Brother Pat Rampy, you had already told me you were too busy you have other things you have to proofread. So, but if you want to, I'll try sending. Actually, the two slideshows are the two PowerPoint presentations for today are in your email. So you can check those and see if you were able to do it. That would be a blessing, so that I can at least get them corrected on the website too.
Don't you send them out though, kind of like a PDF where they can't edit?
They can't edit the PDF, but if I'm sending out the PowerPoint slide as well, then somebody could maybe edit it and get it back to me.
Elaine, earlier I tried to edit the alpha omega thingy, but it was an image.
Yeah, it is.
On your PowerPoint, so I would have to have the original images.
Yeah, and the omega is easy. You can delete the image. The alpha is the hard one. That one I couldn't find as symbols. But in PowerPoint or in all the programs I use, you can find the symbol in your fonts for the omega. But I couldn't find an alpha. So you just delete the alpha symbol and insert a symbol from within PowerPoint. Did that make sense?
But what I'm saying is in the PowerPoint presentation, it's an image. The whole unit is an image. So you would have to like copy the omega on top of it. It's not just a.
Okay, because it let me edit that way. It let me edit that way. I was surprised. That's how I thought it was copied in, but I could get into each individual box and edit. Okay.
It wouldn't let me earlier. I was trying to do that.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyways, prayerfully, we've got through the mistakes and to figure it out. I'm learning a lot. I have a lot to learn. I think if I learned anything else today, it's that I learned that I needed to learn.
I think we have a lot of reading to do this week. We're going over this.
I'm glad we're all in the same place.
We're all in the same ship.
We're all in the same ship. That's right. And we all want to be on that same ship that goes through with the lines. So
yeah, we don't want to abide in death. Only the first one.
Okay, so I lied. I just tried it again. After 3 times earlier, I tried it, and now it works. I don't know.
You just didn't get it.
I just didn't click it on the right spot.
I think it's a little trickier to get in the right spot because you don't see the boxes. You can't see them. So if you get the frame, you can change it. So, but that'll take some group effort along the way because I barely have time to get the notes taken, and it takes me until Thursday night, and then somebody would have to rapidly be able to edit for Sabbath. So I don't know. It'll be a group effort to get it together. But if anybody wants to use that skill of copying because then I don't learn as much, to be honest with you. Using to copy the transcript off of YouTube, I don't think I'd learn as much. I'm spending all that time getting it to the format, and I think I'm missing out on the learning that I need. So it's a blessing. I'd like to be independently, not wealthy. You know what I mean? I don't care about wealth, but I'd just like to do this full time. But so we'll all do the best we can with what we have for now. And it's just really a blessing to learn all this. Do you want to close out with a song? I really like that when we do, if you don't mind. Everybody want to close out with a song?
65.
65. Let me find it.
65.
Okay, everybody ready?
Hang on just a second. Wait a minute.
What are you doing?
Hang on just a second. Wait. I promise it'll be worth it. And done. Okay. You can email that to everyone after. What are we doing? Singing. Okay.
So am I turning it on now?
Yeah.
Okay. Hymn number 65.
Yes. And then look at your email when you get a chance. God be with you till we meet again. By His counsels guide and hold you. With His sheep securely fold you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet. Till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again. God be with you till we meet again. Keep His wings protecting hide you. Daily manage to provide you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet. Till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again. God be with you till we meet again. When life's burdens around you, put His arms unfailing round you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet. Till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again. God be with you till we meet again. Keep Love's banner floating o'er you. Smite death's threatening way before you. God be with you till we meet again. Till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet. Till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet again.
Somebody online, one of the gentlemen want to pray? Do I have someone?
I will.
Okay, thank you.
Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you again for this opportunity, the time and opportunity to study for you. Thank you for these beautiful presentations. we ask for wisdom to understand and recall what we need to know, Lord Jesus. We just want to pray for guidance, Lord. We just ask for traveling mercies as everybody returns to their houses, Lord. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.